전쟁 없는 한반도가 시작되었습니다. 남과 북은 오늘 한반도 전 지역에서 전쟁을 일으킬 수 있는 모든 위험을 없애기로 합의했습니다.
오늘의 이 순간 역시 역사는 훌륭한 화폭으로 길이 전할 것입니다.
백두에서 한라까지 아름다운 우리 강산을 영구히 핵무기와 핵 위협이 없는 평화의 터전으로 만들어 후손들에게 물려주자고 확약했습니다.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in has just finished a historic three-day trip to Pyongyang for talks with his North Korean counterpart, Kim Jong-un. Moon's visit is only the third for a sitting South Korean president since the division of the Korean Peninsula and comes as nuclear disarmament negotiations between North Korea and the U.S. have stuttered to a halt. So is the rapprochement between the neighbors in danger or just getting started?
Joining us to debrief the stream on what happened when Kim met Moon, Kristin Ahn is the founder and international coordinator of Women Cross DMZ. And Jenny Town is a research analyst and managing editor at the Stimson Center. Hello, ladies. Good to have you here. Good to have you back again. Christine, so where are we now in terms of the mood of the Korean people? How would you describe it?
Oh, I mean, it's extraordinary. I've received messages from my allies, my partners in South Korea, the women's peace organizations, as well as North Koreans, especially, including a friend that is a defector here in the United States. And everybody is very buoyed. They are inspired. I mean, I was moved to tears watching President Moon address 150,000 North Korean people who stood on their feet throughout the entire speech, waving and cheering. I think that we are in a new era for the Korean Peninsula, and we have commitments from both leaders to not only remove the threat of nuclear weapons from Korea, but also the threat of war. And I think that their commitment to move forward in actionable ways, from demining the DMZ to setting up a reunion center for separated families, just tangible things that are really moving progress between the two Koreas.
Christine, there's someone who might agree with you on Twitter. This is Muna, who says it is a breakthrough. However, they need to be given time. The world wants North Korea to quickly denuclearize, but I guess they will do that in their own time and pace. At least they are opening up. Jenny, I'm wondering if you feel similarly. Do you see this as a breakthrough?
I think it is a breakthrough in the inter-Korean relationship. And the problem is that there's now a lot of things on the agenda that will require cooperation from the United States in order to really move forward and make good on some of the promises that have been made. And I think this is where we run into problems, is that, South Korea is moving forward at a pace much faster than what the U.S. government is comfortable with. And I think there's already some misinterpretations and misunderstandings of what happened at the summit as it relates to U.S. DPRK negotiations on denuclearization. And these misperceptions are really going to cause problems in the future, because it does create false expectations of what those next steps actually are. And I think these are the things that really need to get hashed out now between the U.S. and North Korea directly.
Christine?
Well, I think that North Korea has signaled that they would dismantle two key sites. One is the long-range missile launch pad, and then the other is the Yongbyon nuclear reactor, which have long been the ire of Washington, D.C. But what we know is that North Korea has said that that is contingent upon progress made with the United States. I mean, you can see the images of Libya and the political chaos that that country is in. You see the situation, what happened in Iraq, and now what happened with Iran. And North Korea also has its own history to look at, where 80% of the country was devastated by an indiscriminate U.S. bombing campaign. So I think it's really crucial, I think especially for Americans who are watching the show, is you're not going to see the denuclearization of North Korea unless there is progress towards peace. And that's why I think it's urgent right now to be advancing the conversation about a peace treaty and put it on the table.
want to share this. Go ahead, Jenny.
Can I just push back a little bit? And I think this is where we need to be very careful and where precision matters, is because what North Korea did in the declaration is it did promise to and commit to dismantle the launch pad at Sohae, which has been used for satellite launches in the past. But they did not commit to shutting down Yongbyon. They used it as an example, and they basically reiterated that this is a process that can move forward and on an action for action basis, and use shutting down Yongbyon as an example. And the problem is that, you know, Secretary Pompeo has already sort of claimed this as a victory of North Korea committed to do this. And that's simply not true. And, you know, as much as it's great that there's renewed enthusiasm for negotiations going forward, if we don't have a clear understanding of what has been committed in order to measure progress, we're going to have a lot of frustrations early on. And so I think we need to be very careful as to what has actually happened, what's on the table, what still needs to be negotiated before, you know, we get too far ahead of ourselves and people get really frustrated.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I just think that it's important to make the case that having face-to-face meetings and dialogue, an actual diplomatic peace process, is what is going to yield the breakthroughs that we see between North Korea and South Korea. And unfortunately, we don't know what state the United States is, because we see many competing messages coming from the Bolton camp, or some from the more pro-engagement camp within the Trump administration. And so I think that's where we have to really say that the policy of maximum pressure, which has just been about punishing sanctions, which have not obviously impacted the regime or stopped North Korea from advancing their nuclear weapons program, has totally failed. And what we need right now more than ever is diplomacy and dialogue and meeting face to face. And I think the majority of Koreans around the world would say, let's begin by declaring an end to this war so that there could actually have some movement between the U.S. and North Korea.
Perfect place to pause this conversation. I hear what you're saying. I hear you, Jenny, as well. I think our community would agree. We're going to pause this here for now, though. Thank you to Christine and to Jenny and our community for being with us.